That's convenient. That's all it does up there is rain, right?
Yep.
No snow.
We had a few inches of snow. It wasn't much, though.
That's convenient. That's all it does. Well, hey guys, there's Kathy. Kathy's up on the screen now. You're broadcasting live now, Kathy. So I'll bring it over to me, and then we've got Amanda on the Hangout. Now, you guys don't have to show your webcam if you don't feel like it. So you can just engage in audio, but you're welcome to put your webcam on if you've got it. And but it's not required. Welcome everybody. Everybody must be here because of all the bad weather outside. You can't get out to do anything else. We got quite a group with us tonight. Let's see. The usual suspects. Boy, that audio is really.
Okay, so Mark, there's an echo on my end now too.
There is. Okay, with my voice or your voice?
With everything. With
everything. Okay. Okay. Then I will get rid of this microphone. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Kathy, how's that sound?
That sounds better to me so far. Let's see if a echo comes in.
Okay, let's let me know. Okay, we'll reboot here.
Wait.
You're still hearing an echo?
I'm still hearing an echo for some reason.
Is that YouTube watch page up on your end? Could it be that you're hearing the speaker on that page?
Okay, hold on. Oh, there it is.
Did that kill it? Was it on the? Okay.
Yeah.
Did it fix it?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Sorry.
I know it happens. It's just the way of the tech. Let me make sure I can see everybody here. Hey, Mary. Snow day yesterday for Oksana. Yeah, I don't know how you guys manage up there with that snow. So, but it'll be over soon, right? March, maybe April. Okay, so ground rules real quick. If the broadcast seems to freeze up on you, usually you can just fix that by going and refreshing your browser window, and that's usually all it takes. If you're having trouble hearing or seeing or having an image, you might notify us. Just type in the chat and I will find it. Keep us posted if you're having trouble hearing us, if there's some sort of a glitch, if you're not seeing my slides or the artwork or something, give us feedback on that. We do have room for some more of you if you want to get on the Hangout inside the control booth, make it kind of a conversation. That's always kind of fun. It's fraught with peril tech-wise and glitch-wise, but we can deal with that, right? So I'm going to post the Hangout link one more time and see if some of you are able to come on if you want to. You don't even have to have the webcam on. You can just participate with your microphone if you want to do it that way, like a Skype call. So I'm going to post that. Give me 1 second to do that. Okay, and just follow the prompts that Google gives you, if it gives you any at all, and you'll be in the booth. Good. Who's Sylvia? You made it on.
I did.
Good for you. Good to see you. All right, so we got Sylvia and Kathy and Amanda is with us too, and maybe we'll have some more jump on the screen. Okay, we're such tech wizards, all of us, aren't we? This is what it takes these days. This is good practice for all of us to show our faces. I was talking to a student online who's going to be with us later in the month, who has self-published her book to really good success. And we were doing a little practice hangout, and she saw the recording of it, and she was amazed. And she said, I've never seen a video of myself, particularly online like that. And so as author illustrators, we should be getting used to that sort of interacting with our fans and viewers, right? So, all right. So I wanted to tell you the calendar is filling up for February. We were kind of getting a slow start as the new year got underway, but tonight we're doing our huddle. And then on February 26th, Shuang Zhu, the illustrator I was telling you about, is going to be joining us for a program. This will not be a homework review. This will be kind of an open program where she talks about the experience of writing and creating her own children's picture book about how a stem cell becomes a baby. And Shuang is a medical doctor in China, where she's from. She's now doing medical research here in the U.S. in the New York City, New Jersey area, and she went with CreateSpace first. And got her book out there as a soft cover, and then as a Kindle book. I think she's going to tell us a few more details. And then she knew the paper quality wasn't quite what it needed to be if she wanted to be entering contests and competitions for her book. So she then took the extra step of republishing the book using a very high quality printer in China that she found after a whole lot of research, and they did a beautiful production of her book. It's a gorgeous publication. And then she started entering it in contests, and she just won one. She won a Mom's Choice Award for a big website that sells oodles of things to parents and homeschoolers, educators. So her plan worked. And it was because of the nice hardcover book. Well, she's going to talk to us about how she put the book together, how she laid out the pages using Microsoft Publisher, and how she got real nice reproductions of her beautiful watercolor illustrations. She'll talk about the creative process, and then she'll talk about the mechanical process of being her own publisher, and then a little bit about what she's faced with now that she has produced her book. She does plan to enter the Asian market with her book, and she's putting together the tools to help her do that. It's going to be real interesting. And she is selling the book right now on Amazon. So we'll have a good visit with Shuang, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. There won't be any homework for this, obviously. It'll just be but I think will be a fascinating visit. And Shuang's a member of our group, and she's become an old friend, and she is really meeting the mark on her plans for success for her book. So then on the 28th of February, we're going to have a little homework huddle, an open critique. Guest group critiques will also be invited to this. And this will be to take your characters that you've been working on, that you're going to be showing. Some of you will be showing your characters to us tonight. And the assignment will be, and I'll follow up with an email with make it clear for you, will be to put your character in a little story scene. Even if you don't have a story fleshed out yet, pretend you do. Put your character in a scene, and the subtext of what you're doing will be to incorporate all of the elements and principles, not all of them, you can just pick a few of them, to emphasize in the illustration. And you can do this with a sketch, or you can do it with a final painting. So it'll be a scene, but it has to be more than a scene. It has to be an engagement with the principles and elements of the design that we've been talking about. And I'll send out the links to the recent sessions we've had on design, and of course they're in the homework lessons too, in the Dauntless Design chapter, subchapter under the drawing module. And I'll send you all those links in case you're having trouble still navigating around the site. So that's on the 28th. I'll try to come up with a cute title for the program so it'll be shorthand for me to say it to you. And then in March, we're going to be moving into painting. So we're kind of closing up with the drawing. I'd like to do one more huddle where we see some more of your story characters. And also with these huddles, know that wherever some new students like Amanda, although Amanda's not a new student to Marks and Splashes, but she's new to the new iteration of the course. The purpose of these huddles is to look at whatever homework you're turning in wherever you are in the sequence. So just because we're talking about, or we seem to be talking about one particular portion of the lessons, it doesn't mean you can't upload homework. We'll look at everything you're turning in wherever you are in the course, okay? But then in March we will be opening the doors to the watercolor module for you guys to start, and there will be a lot more videos to come on watercolor. If watercolor is not your medium and you don't feel like picking up the brush and trying it anyway, that's okay. The painting modules, so many of the lessons still apply to any kind of painting you're doing, including digital. The principles are all the same design principles we've been talking about. They're all the same. So any questions? Let's see if we've got. Oh, Maggie, are you on with us too? Great.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and that's
okay.
great. Yeah. And I don't hear any echo or any weirdnesses, so what fun. Good. This will be more like a visit. Alas, I do have some slides to show you because I want to, before we look at your pieces, I want to recap some of the big ideas in the drawing module. Are you okay with that? I'll try to keep it short and sweet, okay? Any questions? Any other questions? Anybody having oh, and one more thing I should mention, I am reshuffling the sequences inside the website this week. Some of you might have noticed some oddnesses where I'm pushing some things over and moving some things in other directions, and I'm actually hiding some things. I'm going to be repurposing them and putting them in another part of the site. It's just sort of a temporary flux. I'm tightening the sequence a little bit. The end is always to make sure you get the results that you came here for. So that's why I'm doing it. Nothing will be lost. I'll still make sure you have access to everything that has been in the site, you know, from day one when you opened it. I'm just reshuffling the sequence. I should be done with a big part of it in the drawing module by the end of the week. So it should not stop you from just moving through the lessons. There are no broken links or anything, but you'll just notice the order is a little different than what you might have seen last week at this time. Okay? All right, so let me quickly recap for you some of the big ideas of drawing, and then we will look at your sessions. Make sure there's no questions. And Judith, you're in the Hangout too. Good. All right. Well, one of these days I'll get to know all of you by your faces. That is fun. Okay, so feel free to interrupt me, talk, ask questions, talk among yourselves in the control booth. That's fine. It's like we're in a retreat group together at somebody's house. So now I will share my screen. We'll get through the slides real quick. And feel free to interrupt the slide discussion too with any comments you want to share. Okay, this is just to basic idea. If you see urgent question that I'm not missing,
I think it's cutting out a little bit right now while it's loading.
Load.
Yep.
Let's do it. Okay. Close that. Green. What are you seeing now? You'll see it in a second. There's a little bit of a delay. There it is.
There we go. It's working.
Okay. I'm sorry it's so small, but let's. See if this works. That's a little bigger, right? Okay, so this is Austin's illustration table at a recent, I think, might have been last year's Austin SCBW. For those of you who've never heard of that, it's the Society of Children's Book Writers, and part of the conferences is always the where members can bring them and show off their work, and they bring their swag. They put their best foot forward with their portfolio sheet. People to make so it's like your blog. Typically very nice, right? These comments. That's a great way to get traders in the chat. Then they have a competition, the best and second best, and I think the third best portfolio. The selections are made by the visiting faculty at that particular conference, and usually, or the big name illustrator who's there he's like the top judge. But I think they get a group of them, of the guest faculty members, together to rate the portfolios, and they don't rate them, but they pick out the standouts so that the illustrator can be singled out and celebrated for what they do. And they get I think they get free. I think they're still giving the free tuition to the New York SCBWI National Winter Conference. That's what the winning prize is, and there's other prizes down the road. Art supplies, finally, for the third place winner. Have you guys ever participated in a portfolio table at an SCBWI conference like this before? The room stays open and people can go in and out and visit there. Okay, I just wanted to show you that. I wanted to remind you of the Illustrator's Toolbox or vocabulary that we've been talking about: shape, size, line, direction, texture, value, color. This medley of physical attributes is more important to your piece and your composition than your drawing or the cleverness of your idea or the humor of your idea. Any of the narrative things you're doing in your illustration are not as important as these things, these elements of design, and then how you use them, which is the principles of design. That's what the dance is supposed to be. This is what the editors and the art directors are wanting from us above all. And then the storytelling and the humor and the funny character, those are great. Those are so important, but they're like icing on the cake. The important thing is that you're creating a piece of fine art with each illustration, and these are the pieces to get you there as you begin to know them and get comfortable using them. So this is a big idea that's not hit enough, I don't think, in a lot of illustration instruction. Okay, and then the other big point of the drawing module is that is, I think, kind of unique to this course for the moment. This course is the idea of gesture drawing as it was taught by Kimon Nicolaides. And Patrice Barton, who's a member of our Austin SCBWI chapter, she did a great little presentation and guest group critiques in the Drawing Children workshop series that we did last year, and I'm going to share that with you. We'll see if we can broadcast her video. We'll see how this works. It's very short.
It's really hard to hear the video.
Is it? Okay. Can you hear that part of the audio? Me talking? Not really.
I can hear you talking, but I can't hear Patrice.
Okay, well, she's pretty far away. Let me go ahead. Oh, there's just a few seconds left of this. Let me play it through, and then I am going to be uploading the sharing with you guys this whole thing as a PDF with clickable links, and you can watch the video. The link will be there, and you can hear it probably a whole lot better on your computer on your time. But let me just go through the few seconds and see if you can get anything at all out of her couple of remaining comments audio. Okay, I know you probably had trouble hearing that, so I'll turn this into a PDF and I'll make it uploadable. It'll be in the exercises page in the course, and I'll send it out as an email in the email wrap-up email too. Okay, so gesture, we've talked about it in some of our previous huddles. I might have even shown this before. Here's an example of a gesture scribble, 30-second, 20-second, in and out. You're drawing the
Can
thing.
you make it larger? Because it's showing just in a small little window at the bottom.
Oh, gracious. Has that been going on all night? Let's see. Okay. Thank
Sometimes
you
it's going into the, it looks fine in the YouTube, but it doesn't look good in the Hangouts.
Inside the Hangout itself?
Yeah, in the Hangout it's not working, but it's fine on the regular broadcast.
Okay, that's funny. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. What are you seeing now?
The gesture.
Okay.
Oh, it just went by. There it is.
Is it legible? Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about gesture a lot of times before, and Amanda, I bet you even remember us talking about it in previous iterations of the course. So the lessons are all there in the drawing module. The bottom right scribble is his gesture one of Nicolaides' students' gesture of a ribbon. You can see the student is drawing what the ribbon is doing. That's more important in a gesture scribble than what it looks like. And then the part 2 of his approach to the sketch was to follow along the contour, do the contour line, outline, edge. And Nicolaides recommended doing the scribble gesture first to feel it. Try to feel the gesture, the movement, the tensions of the thing you're drawing inside your own muscles, your own body, and it will be easier to translate, and just take 15 seconds with it to get the whole thing down in one scribble, squiggle. It's not quite like they teach gesture drawing in life drawing classes like many of us have taken. So it's what they're calling gesture sketches is a little different than what Nicolaides was saying. And it's all about internalizing the form and the movement. Okay, so it's such a great concept. Then he would have students erase back the gesture they've drawn and then go in to look at the subject, pretend they're a little ladybug crawling along the outside edge of the form, just the topography of the form, and that completes the experience of creating the form, and that's the contour drawing, stage 2. All right, now I'm not going to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube by sharing these videos with you, but this is a really fun way to practice your gesture drawing. And so there's just all kinds of YouTube videos of athletic events, skating events, dance, and these will be clickable links in the PDF. I won't get us all in trouble by broadcasting somebody else's video, so we won't do that. And this is the ultimate one. This is the Royal Ballet Company of England's their production that's on YouTube of Peter and the Wolf, and there's some wonderful choreography and gesture, and so many of the performers are young people anyway. They're students of the Royal Ballet Academy, the younger group, and the choreographer was all about gesture. And you can see in this another concept that was so important to Nicolaides, which is when you're doing a gesture, you're trying to feel the motion right before the pose you see, and the follow through of what the pose would have been after, in the milliseconds or nanoseconds after you've captured the model's pose. So it's a kind of a continuum of movement that you want to try to incorporate in your gesture. Even if you have to sort of imagine what it would be like, you have to feel the whole follow-through movement inside yourself, in your own muscles, and then draw that. And you can actually see the follow-through in a live dance video like this, and it's fun to freeze frame every few seconds. We do this at Laguna, at the Austin Museum of Art School. In my illustration class, we stop and start the video, and students draw their little 15 seconds. Freeze, freeze. And it's a great little fun practice. The idea is if you think about this for creating your scene, when you're drawing a scene, you're starting with a gesture, and you're trying to group all the figures that are in the scene into one gesture. So when you're doing this, like particularly something elaborate like this, where the stage has filled with dancers, you're trying to include all of the gesture you see going on into one line. So it's one gesture. The composition has one gesture. And this is a way to sow the seeds of your composition. It's uncanny how often your 30-second tiny thumbnail scribble gesture sketch will be the composition. And then you just fill it in with contour and a value pattern and paint it, and you're done. And then here's Picasso's sketch of Igor Stravinsky, the composer. And of course, Betty Edwards used this sketch in her wonderful book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, which focuses on the power of contour drawing, which was part 2 of Nicolaides' own approach. And that is following the contour Nicolaides talked about he wanted the artist to have, what was most important was for the student to have an experience of moving into a different space in his own awareness as he was doing the form, and nothing pulls you into that space like a slow contour. And here's where you really slow down to a snail's pace or slower, and you're just pretending you're a little ladybug crawling along Stravinsky's shoulder here, and you're just following it. And I'm sure most of you have heard me talk about this ad nauseum, but it's a fun exercise. Picasso did not draw Stravinsky upside down. It was Betty Edwards who turned him upside down as a way to force the students to come to a subject where they had no preconceived notions of what they were looking at. So suddenly you're no longer drawing and perceiving your subject symbolically or associatively. Instead, you're in the right hemisphere of your brain, Betty Edwards would say, and you're looking at how all these abstract puzzle pieces fit and interlock with each other. You're just as interested in the negative spaces and negative shapes as you are in the positive shapes. And that's how that part of the brain works and processes. It's all about relating spatially, relating puzzle pieces. Have you, some of you guys inside the booth, you've heard of some of these concepts before, haven't you? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It's old. Is it old hat?
Yeah,
It's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it is. It made such a profound difference for me when I was in my 20s after taking life drawing all through college, and I never heard any of this. And then when I was out of school, it was about the time Betty Edwards books were coming out. All right, so gesture contour. Next stage, and when we're doing this, you don't have to have all your reference ready, but kind of between the gesture sketch and the contour drawing, slow contour drawing, in between that, inserted should be your picture reference. And this is one of the underreported, underestimated, most creative part of your illustration is you're only as good as the reference you've amassed. Not to make you accurate, but to inspire you and give you all kinds of ideas. And so I'm sure most of you, since you are all drawing, I have had plenty of experience doing scavenger hunting for reference. Remember, if you take one thing and copy it, that's plagiarism. It's called plagiarism. If you take 3 things and you borrow from 3 things, that's considered research, right? So they used to tell us that as journalists too. So triangulate your reference, get as many things as you can, and never copy. Just do a mashup from the references you have, right? We have so many more tools. Just in the last 5-10 years, we've got tools that no illustrator ever had at her disposal. It's just amazing. And there's no reason not to get good information so that you can draw whatever it is you're setting out. Even if you're not drawing it in a photograph, we're not interested in photographic representations of things we're drawing, but we do want to draw in such a way that it keeps the child reader inside your story and not make him go questioning, I don't think a hand looks like that, or there's something wrong with that tractor truck. It looks like you just want to maintain that suspension of disbelief with your drawing, and nothing's going to break that worse than just not having the right information for your sketch, and you didn't pull off your sketch in a convincing way. A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, I think the common knowledge was that Ernest Shepard used A.A. Milne's or Christopher Robin's actual stuffed animals as references. It turns out that it wasn't Christopher Robin's animals that he used, that Shepard used. It was his own child's little menagerie of stuffed critters in his own child's bedroom, and that's where these immortal characters, visual characters, came from. So Shepard, who was the ultimate draftsman, used stuffed animals for these, and you can too. And not only did he use it for its characters reference, but he, the 100-Acre Woods that's in the front piece of the first Winnie the Pooh volume was actually modeled after an actual woods that was 70 miles outside of London. I don't recall what it was called. It had a name, but he even used it for his map reference. And by the way, this drawing fetched something like 300,000 pounds at a Sotheby's auction a few months ago. It was the biggest single Sotheby's sale of an illustration in terms of money. So that's a good tip for us to make sure in our portfolio when we're just selecting 11 or 12 pieces to show. It's a good idea to include a story map in there because they're a big deal and readers love them, and so do editors. But use some reference in it too. It'll make it more interesting, and you'll surprise yourself with all the things you find. Then Ernest Shepard's daughter was Mary Shepard, and she went on to illustrate the Mary Poppins books by P.L. Travers. And P.L. Travers had her own little wooden peg doll that was her visual reference for the character of Mary Poppins. So the writer had her own little doll, and she was telling Mary Shepard about her little visual reference. And then Mary Shepard went out. This isn't that doll, but she went out and found a similar little doll with a little wooden peg nose. They were called peg dolls, a little black mop of hair. And she modeled her Mary Poppins illustrations for that chapter book off the toy. Another really good source for reference is Grizz and Norm's. This is a husband and wife team of animators, and they've got this terrific Tumblr blog where they give all kinds of tips to cartoonists, animators. An illustrator turned me on to them not too long ago, and they actually have published a couple of books. Somebody was telling me in class the other night that the first volume is no longer available. It's been taken off the market for a little while, but they have volume 2 out. And so what they do is they package some of their Tumblr blog posts and put them in books periodically and sell them on their Etsy site. So but you can just go to their Tumblr blog for free. You might have to sign into Tumblr, but check them out. They're full of good tips for drawing figures in particular, which brings us to figures, which brings us to proportions, the bane of existence for illustrators and comic artists. This is a nice grid by Herb Olson from his old book, Painting Children in Watercolor. Proportions change as the person or the animal grows, and it depends, it's relative to ages. So these proportions just change from age to age, as you can see here. So if you don't have access to a child to draw, get reference like this, and then in your reference, your photographic reference, YouTube videos, take a measurement of the head. The head becomes your unit of measurement, not just vertically, but horizontally sometimes, the width of the figure, and just be ruthless with using the head. Grid everything up, put it on graph paper if you have to. So this will keep your proportions always reading right and just keep you accurate. And it will eliminate. It will eliminate future headaches. Moving right along, we're in the realm of perspective. There's the perspective. Well, anybody recognize these images here? This is our last topic here.
It's got to be Minecraft.
Yeah, correct. It's Minecraft. Well, you must have Minecraft in your life or your child's life somewhere.
I'm just a nerd.
You play Minecraft.
I have never played it, but I've been around enough nerds.
My grandkids play it, have been playing it since they were like not old enough to read. So everything in Minecraft is based on these cubes, right? That's the I don't know, the algorithm or something. This is interesting because perspective works the same way. Minecraft is everywhere, and it's the little pieces the kids are playing with and moving about are all cubular. You could put a perspective grid on either of these two drawings. Legos is pretty much the same way. You have to incorporate perspective unless you want to paint in an extremely abstract way. There is room for non-perspective drawing. There really is. And folk art never bothered with perspective. And a lot of the fine art around the world through the ages has not paid any attention to linear perspective, which is a peculiarly Western Europe, invention from the Renaissance, just a visual trick. But it has become pretty much of a convention around the world in graphic depictions. It's real important in children's book illustration because it helps you to make things look right the way they should. And if they don't look right in your picture, the child reader will see it, and it will stop him in his tracks. And so there's no excuse not to work with it. And it's really fun to work with once you sort of get the basic idea. And I think the basic idea is that the eye level is, that's the line between the two eyes. If you were to draw a line hooking up your eyes, that's your eye level, and that's how you see the world. And that horizon line goes out to infinity in front of you, but it's not really a single line. It's actually a hula hoop. The whole circumference around you at your eye level. That's what this big circle is. And when an object is in front of you with the front plane facing you, if it's, and we're going to do a Minecraft, we're going to turn everything into cubes here so that we can work with it. So the object in front of you, usually it's an architectural object or a piece of furniture. A lot of things man-made, of course, are square or rectangular. They have these right angles in them. Well, even though it's a square or a rectangle, you will see it like this little girl is seeing this because of the geometry of foreshortening and her eyes. So when the plane is in front of you, it's you one-point perspective, and this is the perspective that was invented in the Renaissance by Brunelleschi. So it meant the planes were converging out here at the horizon line, the hula hoop right out here at one vanishing point. And the way it looks to you, if you were kind of looking down on the box a little bit, say the box was below this eye level, and she was looking. Okay, guys, mute your mics if you're making noise, okay, so that we won't wreck our suspension of disbelief as we go through these pictures. But don't forget to put your mic back on when you want to say something. Yeah, so this is what the little girl's seeing. The planes are retreating back to the vanishing point. We can see the top plane of the box shows that foreshortening. So if flipping it, putting us inside the box for an experience of interior perspective, you can see the eye level is still the same right there. And now the planes of the box are the interior wall that encloses you. You can see how that's drawn there. Interior perspective for children's book illustrators is just as important as exterior 1-point and 2-point perspective, because kids spend a lot of time indoors these days. Now, when the square box is suddenly showing you a corner instead of a plane that's parallel to you, that invokes 2 perspective, which was invented later than 1-point perspective, I think a couple hundred years later. And so again, on this idea of the hula hoop around your eyes, all around your head, the box, the cube, the Minecraft cube, Lego cube, has a 90-degree angle at the corner where you're facing, and then those trajectories, those orthogonals, go out and they cut that hula hoop around us at a 90-degree pie slice, right? So that's what vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 2 are. And typically they're off the page you're drawing, they're outside your drawing, because that's a lot of space to squeeze into one flat, tiny sheet of paper. So they tend to be outside the drawing, but you can see how this box, again, he's looking down at the box a little bit. And if you're drawing something other than a box, like a figure or a pet or a piece of furniture or something, your job as a draftsman is to sort of put them in the box. Think of them in terms of being inside of a box, so you can squeeze them in there and bring in the perspective. The interior perspective in this one is the same horizon line. There's the corner. So all the same ideas, except the 2 sides are flipped. And the lessons in the course go into this in much more detail. Now, you can have all kinds of objects in your purview, and they're all facing you in different ways, pointing corners at you in different ways, and they're all cutting the hula hoop around your head into various pie quarters. You just got to remind yourself when you're placing vanishing points that each of the 2 vanishing points for each object are 90 degrees apart from each other on that circle. And that way you can keep yourself honest. Even nature, the outdoors, seems to obey the law of perspective. It's not really a law, though. It's just a visual trick, playing off the geometry of our vision and how foreshortening affects us. There's perspective in shadows. Lessons in the course in the perspective chapter of the drawing module go into shadow perspective. Goes into shadow perspective. And there's our bunny rabbits all standing up, and see how the eye level line cuts them all at their own eye level, assuming they're all roughly about the same size. But if one of these guys was sitting down or very small, that they would not ascribe to the rule. But if they're standing up at the party and you're all about the same age, you're seeing everybody that way. You're hanging their heads on the horizon line. That's how we see things in real life. There's a in class we created a room, and each wall, each wall of the room was facing north, south, east, west, were our 1-point vanishing points, and they were behind the wall. You can't see the vanishing point. It's a theoretical line. There's the hula hoop right there, that line, and we were creating a room, and we would wrap each other inside the room, and it was uncanny how this thing folds around you. And even though this is an example of curve perspective, where the lines are coming out at you at kind of that fisheye lens distorted way, that's actually kind of how our eyes see things. We're not real conscious of it, but when we wrapped ourselves in this box, in this room, four walls, it felt very natural. We didn't see the curves. We felt like we were being enclosed by the room, and all the vanishing points worked to help us draw items inside the room, kitty litters, tables. It was crazy. And I'll have this link. I'm sure some of you have already seen it. It's the wonderful Dick Terme's videos where he creates a 6-point perspective experience with his spheres, and he's very entertaining. He's kind of he's as much a teacher as he is a fine artist. He lives in, I don't know, South Dakota or North Dakota, one of those places, and he has a little gallery with his thermospheres, and he walks you through how those all work. I think that might be my last slide. It is. It's my last slide. We can get out of the slideshow now. Stop screen sharing. Inside the control booth, any thoughts on perspective? Do you like it? Do you use it? Can we talk about it for just a second?
It's taking me a while to get it right. I'm still studying it and still trying and getting it wrong quite a bit. But it's.
Are you okay? Is this Sylvia or Amanda?
This is Maggie.
Maggie. Okay, so you're working with it. All right.
Yeah. I am.
Okay. Well, the lessons should be of some help in there. We really go into it pretty deep. If you spend just an evening just really focusing on it, and there's a lot of great YouTube videos on it too, you can get it in an evening, and it just makes drawing simpler somehow.
I think I think I should know how to do it, and it just seems like so simple, and I don't practice it enough. That's what it is.
One night, just one night, or maybe two, and you'll have it for the rest of your life. And I think the lessons in the course walk through it pretty carefully. And I've got a couple of books in my library. You might, but I don't even think you need a book to just play with it a little bit. Try to force yourself to use it in a few of your illustrations, and you will have it, Maggie, because it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Oh, Amanda says she sees where her perspective falls short now. Wow, that's good. Well, that's the whole idea. That's why we take classes. I took a class in perspective from a guy at the Austin Museum of Art School, where I also teach. Made a lot of difference. Really helped. Okay. Any other comments on perspective? Check the. Yes, can objects in a room have different vanishing points, Oksana? Absolutely. Depending on where they're angled in front of you, they will have different vanishing points. And if they're just directly in front of you parallel, they'll have one vanishing point for the back, for the side walls to converge at. If you're seeing a corner, that cube could be angled any way. And it can be over here in the room or over here in the room, and it will have a different set of two vanishing points on the horizon. But those vanishing points will be 90 degrees apart from each other, so quarter pie slice on that hula hoop around our head. This is my eye level right here. We all have different eye levels depending on how tall or short we are. Let's see what else we got. Judith says, not so complicated, thanks. Yeah, I think we're going to be, everybody knows to mute their mics now. Ashley, we're excited to have you with us. Okay, good. All right, well, if you have any other thoughts about it, otherwise, let's go look at our characters today. And as I'm going over there to the Google Drive shared folder, I'd love to hear your experience of drawing these characters and creating them and making them consistent with grids. So that would be fun to hear that from you. I also want to tell you, while I'm getting over there, that we want you to know that you can upload any exercises in these huddles. They don't have to be like that night's prescribed homework. That's just something we're doing to impose a little structure on this first semester of the course, this first iteration of the new version of the course. However, the huddles are meant to look at all the pieces you upload. Have I already said that? So if you want to upload some gestures, sketches, some contours, your characters, you can. It doesn't matter where you're at in the course. There's room for us to look at your pictures in these huddles and talk about them a little bit. Okay. All right. Panelists, feel free to interrupt me and chime in, okay? We're going to just have fun looking at these. We're going to look at Elizabeth's characters first, her studies. Oksana, yes, the vanishing point will be on the same horizon line in your pictures, depending on, but it will be your horizon line, your eye level line. And when you establish that in your picture, and it shows you in the lessons how to draw that line first as a first step in creating a scene, you're establishing the horizon line for the viewer. So you're in effect making the viewer as tall as you are, or at least you're giving the viewer, the reader, the same vantage point that you had when you're drawing the scene. So you're setting that for him or her. Ashley says she's reminded of varying perspectives in walkways in Europe. Oh, I bet. I bet. Okay, let's scroll through Elizabeth's lovely pieces. Oh my goodness.
That's really nice. I really like that.
Isn't that adorable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is she consistent? Let's see this. I'm trying my first ever character development in this course. First thing I've encountered is how realistic my characters should look. Second issue, how to make the child look same age from all angles. I have lots to learn and practice. Some of my favorite illustrators are Holly Hobby and Tasha Tudor. Yes. Oh, yes. They will never go out of style. Tasha Tudor, well, Holly Hobby is wonderful too. Tasha Tudor well, they both do children and animals so beautifully with their perspective. And it's kind of that old school look that I like so much. But yeah, they need to look like this. They don't have to be any more real. What makes makes her feel realistic to us is that you've got all her proportions consistent, and they are the proportions of a girl that age. And so we believe it, and that's all you need. It's all about those proportions. And as a researcher, you'll have to establish those proportions for yourself with reference or models or stick figures or mannequins or making clay models, looking at lots of YouTube videos, going through your family photo albums, whatever it takes to be able to draw her from all these different points of view. Anybody have anything to add to that? I'm sure Mary Shepard used that little peg doll for her little Mary Poppins character as a vehicle for looking down, having different points of view, looking down on the character from a height, looking up at her. That's why you need all these little props and toys, or photo reference, or get a model. Take pictures of the model with your phone, child model.
Mark.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody, and Mark. Her drawings are beautiful. What do you think about the things that you can get, that you can move their legs and their arms and those kind of things? I think they call them mannequins. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Let's all chime in with and who's that speaking? So I know I can't see you.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Sylvia.
Oh, it's Sylvia. Yeah, I have a drawer filled with those things of various sizes. You can get them real small. You can get them large. I don't know why there aren't more of those available for artists that have children of different ages and different kinds of animals. I saw one of a horse one time, but they're great. That's what they're used for. Do you have some that you use?
No, I don't. I look at them all the time and I think, man, I ought to get something like that.
I know, and it takes a while to get the hang of it, but mostly it's just to give you confidence that you now know what some proportions are. The problem with a lot of this stuff is that there aren't enough of those for children, for younger people and animals. So I hope some clever manufacturer starts to produce more of those. I'm sure one could find them. I just haven't sourced. And so most of the mannequins we see are these fully adult size. So those proportions will be for adults. So you don't want to you don't want to really even be tempted to use those to draw your younger characters, unless you just keep telling yourself, well, here's the basic figure. So I've got our figure reference in general, and now I've got to get my my graph paper out or my grid, and now I've got to size all the limbs down and make the head bigger and that sort of thing.
So Mark, would you recommend that if you had like the girl and they're so perfect, they're so muscular and all this, if you drew a gesture first and then put the proportion to a child, would that be the way to go?
Yep.
Okay.
The gesture will always, in my opinion, the gesture, even though you're using reference, or even if you're not, just make up the gesture out of your own body, feeling what the figure is doing. So you can invent a gesture, but you have to feel it inside yourself first. You get the gesture down first without any worry about proportions or reference, and then you construct the figure over with the help of the contour drawing and that little bit of analysis you've done about proportion sizes. I mean, okay. Some rough things are always going to be that the elbow is no matter what age the person, the elbow is always going to be, when the arms are dropped down, at the line up right about the bottom of the rib cage, whether it's a child or an adult. That's a good tip. And the hands are always going to be at the hips, just going over the hip line. Yeah, and you saw Herb Olson's how many heads high a child is. The easiest one to remember is, according to his grid of a 5-year-old, is 5 heads high. And after that, as the ages change, there's no more nice harmonies like that. It's all the heads don't correspond with the ages anymore. But you use the head as a device, a measurement unit, to help you keep those proportions straight.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks very much.
Great. Liz, thanks for these. These are just terrific, and this is exactly the point, the exercise. You are a good role model, Liz, for the rest of us. And the face too. How lovely.
Mark, do you have any tips for like we've talked about the proportions for the body, but what about like a child's proportions for the face? Because I can see like the body next to the dog, like it looks really consistent and just adorable, but I can tell that she's having a little trouble with some of the face angles, and it's really close, but it's like, I don't know how to I don't know proportions for a kid's face to make a child's face look like a little kid and not an old person.
An old person. It is the bane of our existence, trying to get these kids to look like kids. So and of course it all depends on what age the kid is, and then of course it all depends on the kid. So I think step 1 is to get reference for yourself. Step 2 is to know that the eyes will always look lower on a child, a young child, prepubescent child, because the jaw hasn't developed yet, hasn't grown out to its full breadth and length. So think smaller jaw, smaller chin, eyes lower, eyes appear to be bigger because the head's smaller. The eyes are actually apparently kind of the same as they are, same size, for a 6-year-old adult, but the head grows up around the eyes. So those are some good ones. And then the nose is just indicate roughly where the nose is, and get that first from your observation. Just put a line. The less you have in the way of lines on the child's face, the better she'll look, because we want to invite the reader into the child. The ears line up with the eyes pretty much the same way as they do with an adult. A really good reference, a great reference, is Andrew Loomis's old book, Drawing the Head and Hands. And that would be the best. He's got a lot of, he was good at drawing beautiful women. He had all the babes, because he was doing all the old school style illustrated display ads for magazines back in the golden age of magazines in the 50s and 60s. So he was great at women, but he was also really, really good at drawing children and children's faces and children's hands, which are different than adult hands and teenage hands. So any of his reference books I would recommend you have in your library. They've just been reprinted. You can find them on Amazon. They're not that expensive. Drawing the Head and Hands, Figure Drawing for All It's Worth, and Creative Illustration. And I've got that in a bibliography for you in the course, but I'll try to follow up with that, and so you'll have those references. Those are the ones I can think of. Who else has got some recommendations on that? Ashley's saying, I'm reminded of Hopper and all of the sketches he did before he did a painting. These are such great illustrative notes. Oh, great. Thank you.
So if you start
Kathy, did that help on reference idea? I mean, proportion ideas?
I'm just thinking of like when you start doing a child's face, like when you're doing an adult's, you start with the eyes generally, because they're right in the middle of the proportions. They're tend to be in the middle. So would you put them,
that's your midline,
below middle then for a child generally?
A little bit below, yeah. I would put it a little bit below. Yeah, just scrunch her face down. The top of her head, above her eyes, is going to look bigger than an adult, because the space from her lower lip to her chin is going to be much smaller, much less.
Okay.
And less lines, and that's why Liz is this. Liz, this is a good example. This is how to do it right here. She's showing us. See, she's not giving us a lot of definition. She's just basically sort of placing things with a few dark values lines. And if you can be consistent on that throughout, let's see how she does. So on this one, I would have given her, it looks like her jaw got a little thick here in this girl, which makes her look a little older. She also does look a little older because she looks a little taller. Her trunk is a slightly older child. This may not be the same. Well, I guess she does want it to be the same child. So as we get into, 9, 10, 11 years old, our jaw does start to grow. This child looks more like she's 5 or 6. So reference is the best thing. And then try to extrapolate from the reference you've got for these big general principles. Here she looks great. She looks like she's 5 years old again, or 4. I haven't gone through and measured the heads high to see if they're all consistent. But basically, the amount of detail she's including is just all you need to move into a painting with her. Don't you think? I mean, we don't need these to look like children's portraits or anything too particular, because the reader wants to fill in the details with us. All right. Let's see what. Oh, she tells us her story. Her colleague gives Rosie a tour of his grandma's farm. I just did this character concept for an assignment. may think the story through a little more over time. It's lovely. Let's look at Allison's little birdie.
Great character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look how consistent her proportions are. Oh, okay. Allison says she's here. Can't figure out how to join the meeting. We might do a separate little meeting sometime, a little class on Google Hangouts on air, just for the fun of it. Make everybody an expert at it. This was really hard trying to keep the proportions consistent. Well, you did a great job. There's a terrific consistency. Allison, I'd love to know how you did manage to keep your little guy consistent. You can take this into the races. You can take this and with your character model sheet, now you can illustrate a whole book because you've done the hard work of figuring out the proportions. So how did you manage that? We'd love to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
I love the beaks. I think the beaks add character.
You love the yeah, nice perspective on this too. Look how I'm looking at this, the way Allison has drawn this little guy or her is, our eye level as a viewer is right about at the chick's eye level, right? So everything below our eye level we're looking down on, and so she very effectively has us looking down on her feet, as we would, out there in the real world. And so she is incorporating perspective into this simple sketch, and it makes it that much more 3D and effective.
It almost looks like she did a 3D model in a piece of software and then did the drawing from the model.
It does.
It's
the
the way that
that
the perspective
accurate.
is.
Yeah, it's that effective and consistent. Yeah. Nice, Allison. That's exactly what the homework was, the assignment. So you totally did it. And this is a good exercise to go through with every one of your story characters who are going to be important, since you are going to be drawing them, 28 pages of them at the least, So, and it will remove a lot of pain and suffering later. All right. So take a look at Mary's. This is her character, Dora. I need a class on how to make pictures bigger in images. I don't know how to get rid of all this up here to be able to show you more. Well, let me see if I do. Maybe I can do this. Full screen. Let me see if you can see it this way. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Dora Delaney Detective. The Dora Delaney Detective Agency. Oh my God, she's so cute. This is reminding me of Mary Shepard's treatment of Mary Poppins, that same sort of line and all the different poses you've got your character in. So she's not standing up like a store mannequin for us, like a lot of animators' model sheets have to be. Instead, we get a real sense of story from this model sheet. We see her in all kinds of guises. We're already in the movie with her. She's a great character. Anybody else want to give Mary some feedback on?
She has a lot of detail in her clothing, which is really good. I'm really impressed with that. That's really quite nice.
Yes, I feel that way too. I really feel that trench coat hanging down in some of those. I feel the weight of the garment.
And the dog is posed so nicely with her where she's sitting down.
Mary said she used newspaper photos for references. Wow. Well, who was this interesting person you found newspaper photos of? Yeah, the seated poses are delightful.
Yeah, it feels really consistent. Like the only thing I'd want is like I want to see
consistent.
more of her face. So now you could probably do like a face study so that you could figure out the character of just her face. If you're going to have close-ups. And yeah. I think it's just that it's hard to see in this image.
Yeah.
It's probably there, and it's just.
You mean the details in the face?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm able to see her face pretty well on my screen. Of course, you guys are seeing it twice removed in a Hangout, but I think her face is looking like a consistent character. But it would be great to see a whole page or two in her sketchbook devoted to the face, particularly if she's going to work her into a fun character. I'd like to know where these newspaper photos came from this interesting detective, or did you just turn her into a detective, Mary? You gave her props and a mission. Ashley says, wonderful characterization. You can see a bit of her personality come through. Yes, I agree. Adorable. You know, this is all the lines you need you can transfer some of these right to the watercolor paper and finished. That's articulation than what you've already got here. And I don't think, in my opinion, sometimes the less we draw, but you've darn near filled a sketchbook with images of her as you get to know her. I know illustrators who fill entire sketchbooks with their characters before they start on their scenes. Mary says they came from all kinds of photos, all kinds of newspaper photos. All right, Mary, nice job. Good going. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is the, I don't think I'm going to be able to, it's the same sheet, but it's a bigger version of it. So these will be in the folder for you guys to take a closer look at. But Mary, that's exactly what the assignment was. So very good. You get a big check mark, I should say, to be more accurate. Kathy, let's take a look at your animal characters, which are so fun. I'm gonna try to blow them up a little bit.
They're adorable. I love the fox.
So this is actually like a little pine marten, is what he's supposed to be.
Oh, pine marten. Okay.
It's like a weasel.
Okay.
But he's a very cute weasel. He ends up looking a lot like a caricature of a fox.
Yes.
Like an actual pine marten looks like, oh, you're just the cutest fox ever.
Yeah, because it has a bushy tail. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The world needs the kidlit world needs a pine marten character. I don't think there's one out there, is there?
So these are going to be the narrators to a sort of a game of critter ball between ravens and squirrels. So you have
the expressions are great.
Yeah. I knew the story was going to be more about the need for the expression than about needing it to look perfectly, like making their bodies look perfectly consistent. So it's trying to get trying to focus more on the expression and consistency of character throughout different expressions.
And yet you've got consistency in all of these guys. How did you achieve that, Kathy?
I looked
proportionate consistency. I mean,
the thing that you sent out explaining and it had a video from a previous class, and he talked a lot about using layers and transparency, and I was like, oh yeah. That's of course.
Okay,
so
good.
Just like copying one, once you have an image you like, doing a transparency of it and just changing the things that need to change the angle. That's how I tried to keep the consistency of proportion.
You've done a great job of twisting your little characters around in different guises, different points of view. So, but you were able to do that with just using the transparencies and layers and just being mindful of the head size. And is that right?
Yeah, I think it still needs a little work, but yeah.
I don't know. He reads great to me. I mean,
okay.
Martin does, and the bird does too. And you even given us a looking down on the raven. So you're letting us see these guys from all different perspectives.
Right. They definitely have gesture to them.
Did you see Nicole Tougault's discussion about how important and how nice it was for an agent to discover an interesting, strong visual character in a portfolio or a book proposal, that they really look for those characters?
Yeah.
And I think your guys have got that going for them. I mean, they do look like real interesting characters that could carry a book on their shoulders or an adventure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really cool. And you painted him how?
These, I did initial sketches on paper, and then I transferred it to my iPad and did a digital rendering with color.
With Procreate or what?
With Procreate, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's trying to go for the colored pencil look.
Well, you certainly went for a modeled, painterly look. You certainly achieved that, I think. I'm getting such a kick out of the Ravens headset microphone. Yeah, they're both really great characters. Feel a sense of story happening already. Don't even know what's going to happen. The sportscaster's side of things. It's more about the covering the sporting event than it is about the actual sporting event, right?
Well, they would be the they would be the character that's on every page, really, more so than
the narrators.
Yeah, more so than the individual members of the teams, right? So I wanted to make sure that they had all the character.
Yeah, that's a great device. Harkens all the way back to ancient Greek theater, right? With the narrator and Thornton Wilder, Our Town. Well, maybe you can get ESPN to sponsor this book.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, let's go. Let me scroll back. Nice job. Exactly what the assignment was calling for. You guys are all on track for getting an A in this course. That was a joke. There's no grades in this course. All right, Judith. Thank you, Kathy. That was great.
Thank you.
Judith, do you want to fill us in on your character? I remember your zoo scene from last time with the painters. Oh, Kathy Ashley was saying, like a whole line of swag made for this book. I think she's talking about your book, Kathy. Diary, shirts, fabric, stickers, and beyond.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool. Multiple streams of income. That's what we're all looking for as artists, right? That's what we would all be encouraged. So Judith's piece is doing, it's Rousseau teaching children. And she says she's just teaching. She's just starting. No, let's see. Yeah.
Oh, there's 2 Judiths.
There's 2 Judiths. Yeah. So this is the other Judith. Yeah, I know you're just starting, Judith. Judith A and Judith N. Rousseau, the wonderful Rousseau. Is there an episode out of Rousseau's life, Judith, where he did teach painting lessons to children? His story just never ceases to fascinate me. He's just one of my favorite artists. And he did love his Paris Zoo. Can you talk to us, Judith, about the reference and how you're handling this scavenger hunt for reference in the case of Rousseau, Henri Rousseau? Oh, Judith says yes. He taught painting and violin and mandolin. I'll be darned. He was an amazing, self-directed person, if ever there was one. Well, I feel like he does look like the same character, even though his proportions are a little are not exactly consistent. If this is are these all Rousseau? If they're all supposed to be Rousseau, I notice sometimes his receding hairline is more so in some of the images than in others. So it makes it makes us wonder if he's the same person, and he may not be. This fellow here holding out the brush seems to almost like he's almost got a little beard, but that just could be some pencil lines. But if he's the same fellow, go ahead.
I think that's the collar. I think that's the collar of his schmuck.
The collar of his schmuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, but and these are not. It's not the best way to view the art. Whoops. Yeah. Are we getting a sense of this character, even though the proportions are a little different in some of them? Or do we have a feeling of who he is?
It definitely feels like the same character throughout to me.
Okay, yeah. Throughout, doesn't he? Somehow.
Yeah, and she's got the same clothes on the top 3, I think, and
yeah,
on the bottom one she's got sort of similar hat, and the only one that's slightly different is the one with the violin. So they're recognized as 2 groups.
Yeah, so she's giving us the clues that he's the same person, and I just love how authentic the clothes feel for this era, which would have been, I don't know, turn of the century, early 1900s. You just nailed it. It feels so authoritative the way you've got him. So clearly you've done homework. She says, for references, Judith says she used the Rousseau retrospective at the Tate books, at the Tate, the museum in England, books, and her imagination. Terrific, fascinating. Well, you're really catching the flavor of the times and him. And Judith says, yeah, it's all Rousseau, but can't decide whether to create my own style or to imitate his style. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think probably you can find a happy medium, a blending. His paintings were fabulous, by the way, even though he was teased for being a naif. He wasn't at all. He was a very sophisticated painter. This is an exciting project. Judith, are you working on a manuscript to accompany it? Will it be a picture book manuscript? I think an editor and agent would encourage you to try to incorporate some of Rousseau's painting style into your illustration. So I think you've got a good hunch there. You're moving in a good direction. And I bet you can find a blend, and it'll just take drawing him a whole bunch of times and maybe filling half a sketchbook with images, just like you're doing here. What's really nice about these studies is that you've given us a nice 3/4, a nice side profile. You've flipped in the other way and given us a nice other side profile. You've got him sitting down, got him interacting with a little kitty. So you're showing him from various perspectives. Just keep doing more of this and use his head as a unit of measurement for the entire form, and just start to get your muscle memory going so that you really know this guy from the top of his hair, his balding head, to the tip of his toes, and from all directions, just like you're doing here. It just will take some hours of working with him and having fun with it. And you'll really do all the spade work for your illustrations, because so many of those studies will go right into your pictures when all is said and done. Yes, Ashley says, I would love to see you create your own style. And Judith says, his paintings are huge. When I saw them at the Tate, yes, she's working on a manuscript. Judith says his perspective were more like folk art, not accurate to now. Yeah, so that being the case, you would not have to be all architectural with your perspective in some of the scenes. He very much had a flat approach to things, and you could make that part of your style too. Oh, he was such a good painter. I love his work. Any other comments for Judith on Rousseau?
I would say that don't feel like you have to put all of your character studies on one piece of paper, because sometimes you start drawing your second character and then you realize you don't have room for the gesture you wanted, and it's like not even conscious that you're changing the things. So like when I was doing mine, I had to keep on like picking up the drawing digitally and moving it over so that I could make room for something that I was drawing. So if you draw them on separate pieces of paper, you won't have to deal with that.
It's like doing lettering on a poster, right? You run out of room.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great tip. Thank you. Ashley wants to see more. Love it. Okay, Judith, great progress you're making on this. Your sketches from last time made a real impression on me too. So just keep at it, keep after it. Have you done a thumbnail storyboard for your story yet? And those are in the lessons, as you know. They're how to lay that out. That's just for your eyes, not for any editor or agent's eyes. Maybe you could show it to your critique group, or if you want to flash your thumbnail storyboard past us in one of the huddles, you can certainly do that. But start in Corp. How are you going to squeeze this narrative into your picture book format, if it is going to be a picture book? Okay, good. All right, so Marge is a little young kid, a little kid. Let me see if I can make the images bigger. All right, good.
Yeah, I did this a while ago, but it fit in with the lesson, so I thought I'd do it because I had tried to do this same kid from different angles and different poses.
Yeah, I remember.
Make her consistent, that she's recognizable, and that would be part of a book dummy that I'm working on.
Wonderful. Was it hard to have her in proportion? And you've done a real good job of proportions here.
Yeah, but I actually drew lines, like you could see they're kind of, and then sort of got the heads, and I was able, when I was on vacation, there were a whole pile of children at the beach, and we were quite far, and I had a telephoto lens, and I got some poses of them.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That was my photo reference.
Oh. Super. It's a great way to work. And as long as you're not doing portraits of those children, so they're not stealing their identity, but you're just using it for the physicality of the mechanics of a human being. How does a child's body fit together?
It was kind of good.
So hard.
There was a little boy on a rock, and he was pounding something with a rock. He was doing something, so the little girl that's with the ball is sort of taken from that. So
you had a narrative going on in front of your eyes.
Yes, I was very happy that day.
Great. Well, you've got a nice a nice 3/4 view. You've got a front on. You've got a back view. You've got her seated. Your next set of sketches, you might try looking down on her a little bit, like you're kind of on a higher level, and then you could also try some a fun version of looking kind of up at her, like you're her kitty cat looking up at her. What would she look like?
Oh, good idea.
The cat's ideas. But anyway, this is how you do it, and you took pains to put those grid lines in there so you could make sure she would be the same girl with the same proportions from scene to scene. So this is great, Marge. Yeah, terrific. And with enough practice, we start to internalize the proportions, and you don't need grid lines anymore. You can feel it. Your muscle memory is taking care of it for you.
Yeah.
So she is adorable. Great assignment. Great treatment of the assignment. All right, so let's see. Oksana's raccoon is here. Oh, Roxana.
That's great.
He is a cutie. It almost feels like you do animation or something, Oksana, because I feel the physicalness of his little plump form. I feel him. I'm feeling him. You've got like the physics of the way he's carrying his weight. I believe it. Was it hard to hold yourself to the head proportion all the way through? Did you have to do a lot of versions of him, Oksana, before you got this far, or did the grid lines just see you through it? And do you guys want to give Oksana any feedback on her character? Oksana says she did try to get the proportions right, and she measured and used guidelines. Good for you. Did it help? Liz is asking how many different view perspectives are in a picture book. Looking down, eye level, from below. Yeah, you'll see all kinds of things. And to get a feeling for that, just go to the library and check out 30 picture books, and tell them you're taking a class and you need the reference. They should let you check out a big armful of them anyway, and just start looking. And now you'll be sensitized to how other illustrators, you'll be aware of how other illustrators are grappling with the same problems you are and how they treat it, and how many different points of view do they include in their illustrations. And some do it more than others. Some maintain a very flat profile. But the more interesting and varied your treatments can be, the more interesting your portfolio will be to someone looking at it. You know, so even if you do a picture book where there are not a whole lot of different points of view and you're just seeing a character one way, if you fill your sketchbook and dummy with, it will demonstrate to the, you know, whatever gatekeepers in front of you at the time, that you aren't afraid of, you know, expanding the visual horizon of the story. Let's see.
She says his name. The name is Rona Raccoon.
Yeah, Ronarek got some good alliteration going for it there. Yeah. Yeah. Judith says, he got me to giggle. I want to know more about him and his story. And Ashley was asking what his name was. Maggie says, your character is great. I find doing 3/4 profiles, front and back of the whole body, tricky, and it's particularly difficult for me to draw a 3/4 profile of an animal's face. The snout, mouth gives me trouble. Yeah. Well, it is tricky. It is tricky, and reference is going to have to help with that. We've got in south of Austin, Texas, there's this giant sporting goods store. And this always happens to me. I never remember the names of the places, but it's one of those big sporting. It sells a lot of hunting guns and ammunition and stuff like that. And there's like 1 million stuffed animals in a big display in the center of the store. It's really kind of odd, but it's a great place for reference. You can get up close to a bighorn sheep and a wolf and a coyote and a bear. All that science museum close to where you live, or stuffed animals are good for this. And if you watch out for those licensed characters, but if you can take cues from licensed characters, licensed toys, for cues for how the weight is hanging on the legs. So just the answer to your question, Oksana, is more reference, just lots of good reference, 3D reference if you can find some. Okay, I'm scrolling the questions. Ashley says, I love what you are doing with Rona's eyes as well. Kind of a Dali mustache, that 50s style black makeup. Yeah, kind of like costume party, masquerade party, the raccoon's mask. And Oksana says, it's a girl. And she says, I looked at photos of real raccoons and pictures of cartoon raccoons and stuck them together. Good for you. Well, you resulted in a character who has her own authenticness. You've created something new and authentic out of your mashup. Good for you. Sounds like she came pretty quickly, to you. So you were lucky. Sometimes it takes an illustrator weeks and months to find the visual character that they're looking for, and they're trying all kinds of mashups and all different kinds of approaches and reference. Liz says, I love his tail. I love her tail and all these. Yeah, I love her tail too. Beautiful tail. It's really fun to see that tail. It takes on a life of its own.
What would be a fun study with this type of a character that has like such dimensional weight would be to try to do like a little Play-Doh model or a little clay model. And
yes.
Just like play around with how long do you want the snout, and
yes.
How do you want the back to look like? Is there a different way you want the back to look?
Yes.
Like just having fun, because
yes, creating the 3D form itself. And Kathy, how illustrators have been doing this for centuries, creating mannequins. And I guess there's that term, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, maquette, I guess.
Maquette, yeah.
And James, and animators, of course, do that as well. And James Gurney has a wonderful book about, I can't think of the title of it, but it's in the bibliography, about drawing for realism from life. And he's a big creator of maquettes of his dinosaurs and creatures. And yeah, like you said, Kathy, it's a lot of fun to play with you and just keep changing, morphing it. Like Mr. Potato Head. You put different things, try different things on. But you've done a great job of giving us a sense of his 3D form and his mass just from the cartoon and zoo reference you were using.
I love how big her eyelashes are. They're just like ridiculously long.
Yeah, they look like real eyelashes, don't they? Like they've been teased and teased and teased. Yeah, she's a cutie. Ashley says tracing paper is also a good friend. Absolutely. Throw sheets of tracing paper over your character and then try different things on her, like Mr. Potato Head, like your. And Oksana says, I need to make her look more like a girl. Well, you're getting there. Oksana says they're false eyelashes. Yeah, how cute. Darn. You've given us a good front on, a good 3/4, a good profile, and a good back view. You totally met the assignment, Oksana. You were up for it. You knocked it out. You did great. It's exactly what we were supposed to do tonight. We look forward to seeing more iterations of him, and we look forward to you putting her, I said him, didn't I? We look forward to you putting her in a story scene. That'll be your next step, just for fun. That could be your class project, putting him in a really good scene, maybe with some more characters. Any other comments about Rona? We'll go to Tina. When I looked at this for the first time, Tina, I was just struck by how incredibly well you had your proportions throughout. It looks like you have done this sort of thing before in creating a consistent character. She is beautifully consistent. And she's a very interesting elf. It's fun. What is going on here? I don't know if you're here, Tina, but I really like this, and I think this would be fun in a portfolio. Even I kind of almost wish you gave us her whole figure here, but you were focusing on her face and head and shoulders, it looks like, and her arms, and so you gave that to us, and it's really fun. But maybe with some more of the figure, I could figure out, what was she falling? Was she trying to fly and she fell, or did she stumble, or what's going on? I just had that question, but I really like it. I really like the way you're playing with the wings, having them do different things, and you're feeling the physics engine in there of her collapse. And of course she's great here, and you've got her face and figure just looking like the same person throughout. Well done. This is Pippa the elf. You guys want to give Tina any feedback? Ashley saying, looks like some serious ninja moves. Maybe that's what it is. She's a warrior. She's fighting. And Ashley says, this is such delight, such attitude. Yummy. Yes, indeed. So yummy. And so elfin. And it doesn't look like other people's elves. There's something very believable about the wings, because you've sort of positioned them on her like, I don't know, maybe you studied some insects or some flying ants or something. There's something very believable about this wing structure that doesn't look like other fairy wings. Not an elf, she's a fairy. Yeah, fairy wings.
I think that adds character to it because the wings are different. I almost get the idea that she's trying out these wings the first time and they're not working quite right for her.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
she's a newbie.
see that. That's a great observation. Yeah, there is something just a little askew and awkward about the wings.
Yeah.
Like but and yet they feel so right on
Oh yeah,
her.
they look nice.
They look nice. Yeah. I like that she's in these campy. What's the brand of dance wear, dance leggings, dance skin? She's very fashiony.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wings slap on there, and they bring it back down to more like the level of nature and real creatures in the woods. So suddenly she's not such a fashionista. She's more of a supernatural phenomena, natural/supernatural phenomena. Liz says, and she's bow-legged, which I like. It gives her character as well. Yeah.
I missed that.
It's from riding all those little horses, little fairy horses, and little creatures. Capizio, yeah, thank you, Ashley. Oksana says, very consistent, sweet, and delicate. Yes. Well done. She's given us a face forward, 3/4, side profile, back view, and ninja moves. From the triumph of victory to the agony of crashing and burning here. Okay, guys, let's see if we're missing any. Good job, Tina. You two met all the exercise requirements. You're getting gold stars next to your name here in the grade book. Everybody did great with this exercise. I'm so pleased with how you all responded and just knocked it out of the park. And you've got characters that look like they could on their own start to support a story or a portfolio sequence or a partial dummy. That's how strong your characters were, and they were all quite good in the consistency department too. So I'm gonna. Any other comments about the artwork tonight? Oh, Allison's got a some photos up with her McKay treatment. She did make a little bird. Thank you for uploading that duck Play-Doh model. Did that help? Oh, going back to Tina's. Liz is saying, and Judith is saying, my granddaughter would make you tell her all about this little cutie. She'd want to know the whole story. That's really great. And Ashley says, look at her little tummy too. She has a real body. I want to go back and look at that. Let's take a look, because I think I noticed that too. She's got a real believable form. It's great. It's so convincing. She kind of makes me think of Julia Roberts in Fairy Guys. All right, so back to the photo of Allison. Are you here? Do you want to tell us any more about the McKay? This is what is called a McKay or maquette. I keep pronouncing it wrong. And you can. Most illustrators are budding sculptors and sculptresses anyway, and it would be fun to try to create, just create something out of modeling clay. We should do a session on McKay building, and you can use the same thing over and over and over again, in your story illustrations, the same little model. So yeah, that gives you a really good idea. Anything else here? I think we're good. All right, so I'm going to end the screen share. If I can figure out how to do that. Give me a second. Making myself seasick here. Great job, guys. I don't want to keep you any later than you've already been. You have been good sports. We've gone a little longer than I expected to, but I love the work you turned in. So I hope to see some of you in our session with Shuang. And of course, the replay will be up if you have to miss the live session. That's on Tuesday night. And then on the 26th, February 26th, Tuesday night with Shuang Zhu. It's an afternoon program. I didn't tell you that. It's at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So many of you might have to watch the replay, but I think it's going to be fascinating. And she is really interesting to talk to. And her book is beautiful. And I'll send you the link to learn more about her book. And then on the Thursday, February 28th, we'll talk about, we'll have a critique session that you guys are welcome to participate in. It's for the guest group critique subscription, but because you're students in the Marks and Splashes course, some of you are in guest group critiques, but it will be about incorporating the elements and principles, consciously incorporating, trying to some of those elements and principles into your scene. And it can be just a sketch, or it can be a final art painting. And who knows, it might find its way into your portfolio. It might be that good. And we'll talk about them in terms of design. I'll try not to go too long with the session, but we do want to look at everything that's turned in. Got some real exciting things coming up in March for you too. Not quite ready to share the details yet. Don't have it all hammered out, but we're in for some real treats. That's all I'll say. And then we're also going to start painting videos and some demonstrations and some practice exercises in March as well. Probably the second half of the month, we'll start with that. Any questions, guys? Anything? Let me say good night to all of you. Kathy, thank you for pitching in again tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to see you. Amanda, there's Amanda's avatar. Maggie, good. So glad you guys were able to join us. Sylvia, thank you for being on with us. Really appreciate it. And I will close out the broadcast. Thanks, guys. Any questions, any issues, any trouble? Okay, Sylvia, you and I have been talking about access into the website, so I'll look at, well, I haven't read your email yet, so I'll look at that and email you back.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Good.
Mark.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.